Welcome to the Results Podcast with Michael Altschiller, where results are the name of the game and we're arming you to win.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting episode of the Results Podcast. This is your host, Michael Altschiller. And as always, we bring you the top thought leaders, the movers, the shakers, the innovators, and yes, even the disruptors. And today's guest checks all those boxes. You're in for a real treat, and I know I'm in for a real treat. Can't wait to listen to him and what he has to offer. But he is a former NFL athlete turned emotional intelligence coach for world-class leaders. I could probably stop there, but wait, there's more. After almost becoming paralyzed during a football injury in the National Football League, our guest was able to start his new journey by looking at life from a completely new perspective. He dove headfirst into understanding what it actually means to live a life of fulfillment while achieving success along the way. And don't we all want that? Since making that decision, he has personally worked with over 300 people on creating a healthy relationship with themselves so they are able to escape the rat race of the achievement loop and step into a place of achieving massive success, impact, and money from a place of ease. I'm feeling more relaxed just reading that. He helps entrepreneurs and business owners regain a deeper connection with themselves to find more fulfillment in their lives. He has worked with world-class fitness models, professional athletes, Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, and C-list executives. He works with people all over the world on being able to remove the mental, emotional, and physical blockages that are preventing them from reaching their full potential. Please help me welcome our special guest, Keyen Lage.
Woo!
All right.
Come on, baby. We're here. Oh,
yeah,
man.
we're off to a right start. I was telling you before we started recording that I screw up. I'm from New Jersey. I screw up every name. And his last name for the listeners is Lage. So I took I don't want you to think I'm smart enough to get that the first time. I took 15 shots. And finally he said, Mike, we don't have that much time. Here's what it is. It's Lage. So I don't want you to think I was that smart. So listen, first of all, I love everything that you're about from the intro. And I know our guests are going to get tons of value from this. So I want to jump right in because I coach on peak performance and I look to the NFL a lot and what it takes to operate at that level, that elite level, that world-class level. And still, how do you find that balance? And that's what I love about what you're doing. Tell me about you growing up. Where did you grow up? What area? And how did your family influence you and your beliefs?
Yeah, I'm from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I know even a lot of people in the U.S. don't really know where South Dakota is at, but it's a place that holds Mount Rushmore. So we got Mount Rushmore and got a lot of cows and corn and a lot of great people. So I'm from South Dakota, good old Midwestern, wholesome family. My grandfather, I would say, planted the seed of playing in the NFL for me. He had the opportunity to play in the NFL way back. And that really was what I would say got me to believe that it was possible for myself. And since I can remember, since I was in third grade, I said I was going to go to the NFL. So my family is also incredible at always just allowing me to be in an environment where I could do what I want to do and always encourage me to do that. So I consider myself very God blessed to be able to have a family that encouraged me to follow what I wanted to do, that exposed me to a lot, but never pushed me or forced me to do anything, which is incredible. And so because they gave me the space to really step into what I wanted, I took full lead and really stepped into that place. Like, this is what I want. And I went in full go on it. They'll be the first ones to say they never pushed me to do anything. I was always the one that really was the puller in that, really pulling them along. And I just believe that there's so much love in that space with my family and so much encouragement for what was possible. It really allowed me to step into a place. Hey, I believe in myself.
That's so great. And what I love about that are two things that I pull from that for our listeners is one is if you have kids, if you're blessed with kids, the exposure to let them find their path, their route, what their passions are, And that was kind of the first thing, exposure to those things, because we don't know. We think we know, but you really don't. What someone can really get into and say, sometimes we get into things we think we'll love it and we can't stand it. So exposure to many different things I thought was the great first takeaway that I got from that. And the second is you can never instill enough belief, and you could borrow belief from someone else, because we certainly can borrow self-limiting beliefs from other people, what they say, and it becomes our reality. So when you have and surround yourself with people that believe in you and encourage you to find your path, your passions, I think that's a great start. And you're right. It's a blessing to be born into that environment. Some people weren't, and they need to find that group of people that will help them be exposed to those things. So, okay, so take me, you grew up, and I didn't know Mount Rushmore. Thank you for that historical reference, which I love, reference like that. So now I know South Dakota and North Dakota, and he is the soul of the earth. And people from there, it's like, yeah, great Midwestern values. And it's like exactly what you read about. So take me first of all, did you ever think, like, being how big and how few, did you ever think of how few people make it to the NFL? I mean, the odds are so stacked. Did your friends say, because you're not a big guy, so were you like and I'm not saying that to be in any demeaning way, were you like a wide receiver? Were you a cornerback? What position did you play?
That's a great question, Mike. What you might have to do is you might have to take a picture of my old playing days. You might have to put it in the notes. Because back in the day, man, my NFL weight, I was I'm 6'3", but I was 235. I mean, I ran a 4.5 40, could 39.5-inch vert. I mean, I was a freak, man. So now I look like a cross country runner.
Yeah.
So I'm about 195 now, but I played linebacker back in the day.
Wow.
So, yeah, I've lost a little bit of weight. It's been a transformation and a half, man.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny. It's funny that you say about that because when you look at the magazines when we were younger and we lifted weights, you get the muscle magazines, like the Arnold Schwarzenegger, and the guys are like built like The Rock, and just super muscular. And as you get older, like I'm older than you, and as you go, the magazines go. And now I'm on Men's Fitness, and then I'll be on Older Fitness, where they keep getting trimmer and trimmer, and just all we want is to be slim and cut and low fat. And we're good to go with that we just want to be ripped, but we don't need to be big anymore. We don't have to eat the 6,000 calories a day and all the protein. So
or blend up tuna and rice in a blender just to make sure I'm getting enough calories. Not to say that was personal, but
yeah. So okay. So did you ever hear are you crazy from friends or anyone else that no way you could make the NFL? Do you know what the chances of that are?
Oh God, there was probably some people that did along the way, but I don't feel like I got it very often. Or okay. Maybe I'm just really good at being able to block it out and not really have any regard for it. But most people believed in me. I feel like a lot. Yeah, I mean, I had guys my freshman year of college. I mean, I went to University of South Dakota. I didn't expect to play until my like redshirt junior year, because I never played linebacker before. And I was a safety in high school and tight end in high school, and moved to linebacker in college. And I ended up starting my true freshman year in college. And there was guys on the team who were like, dude, like, you're gonna go to the NFL. I'm like, holy shit. Wow. Like, yeah. Okay. But I always had the belief, man. Like I always did. And I went home this last time back to South Dakota. I'm living in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil now. But I went back home and I had a conversation with my little brother, who's a junior in high school now, playing high school football and everything. And he remembers back a long time ago when I was a sophomore in high school, and I was driving him down the street to go home one day. And he remembered asking me, saying, Keyen, are you really going to go to the NFL? And I don't remember this conversation, but I apparently I was just like, yeah. And
That's it.
That was it.
Yeah.
So it was really,
yeah, and it was matter of fact. It wasn't like, let me think about it, or I probably will. It was, like, of course. Now there's a big gap between a and understanding the disciplines, the sacrifices, the commitment, the depth of commitment that's necessary to play. And I don't care whether it's the NFL or it's the elite level as an entrepreneur, the hills, the valleys, the competition, the ups, the downs. And you know exactly, and people listening to this, listen, life is tough and business is tough. and to have that mental toughness and the disciplines is key. So tell me, first of all, who'd you play for? What team did you play for?
I never actually got to play a game due to my injury, but it was the Kansas City Chiefs. So it was the same year that a couple of those freaks came in, Tyreek Hill and Chris Jones. That was a fun camp with those guys. I almost pulled my hamstring trying to catch that dude. But yeah, so that was it. And I'd like to touch on what you said with really like what it takes, like, you talk about the discipline and hard work. I would attribute so much of my success in being an entrepreneur now, and with getting the NFL, with being able to stay in my own lane. Like that was like something that I've always taken a lot of pride in being able to do, of observing and noticing people around me, but still saying, okay, this is where I'm going. Boom. And be like, and really buying into that and really tapping into a place of understanding inside of myself of what needs to be done to make that happen, and being open to learning those things. So staying in my, go ahead.
No, that's a great point. I want to peel back the onion on that a little bit. A lot of people don't know what their lane is. They get confused because of all the outside noise and influences, and the noise and influences inside their own head, and they're confused. What is my lane? What is the right course for me to go down? How did you come into understanding what your lane was, and what would you say to those listening to this that can then do a kind of a checkup from the neck up and say, yeah, I'm in the right lane, or I need to pursue something else?
Giving myself permission, and this, I talk about this post-football, permission to not have to decide a lane. And I feel like there's a huge stigma surrounding purpose, surrounding our path, that it's so important for people to find their path and find their purpose. And I kind of give a big middle finger to that and say, fuck that. And really just give myself full permission to go into this exploration phase, which is post-football. Like, dude, I did so much crazy shit, like so much fun stuff that I just like would, my Keyen, my Midwest, humble, hardworking, that everybody looks to for the direction, would not have done.
Oh, right.
Woo. I moved to Miami. It was the first thing I did after I got done playing football from South Dakota. So as you can imagine, Miami's a pretty wild place. So
yeah.
So giving myself permission to say, I don't need to have a path. I don't need to have a direction. I don't need to have a purpose. Let me just go into trying and doing a bunch of stuff I feel inspired to do, and seeing where the cards fall. And through that permission to not have to have it figured out, and just doing stuff that like I really felt inspired to do, that allowed more of a direct and clear path to emerge for me.
Did you?
Right?
I love that, because that's a contrarian point of view, of course, and you know that. So
good on giving those.
Yeah. So I love that idea. It wasn't mine, because NFL, the clarity of purpose and focus. It's all about, this is what you need to do, and you need to be focused in on that, and the time and energy you put into that. So here you're going through this explorative exercise, if you will, or road path. And do you, in that, while you're going down that path, and that ties into your bio now, I understand the ease. As you're in that path, do you then become aware, have an awareness of what feels really good and right? Take me down that journey for you and for what others can expect if they follow this.
Yeah, definitely. And it all goes back to that permission I talked about, right? That permission for me to stay in my own lane, right? And so much of the world is saying, hey, figure it out. You got to know what you want to do so you can have success in that thing, right? Yeah. But that's step 8. That's step 8. Like everybody's trying to get to step 8, 9, and 10 when they haven't even done steps 1 through 7 first. Right? Yeah. So how am I supposed to choose this thing for the rest of my life? That's my inspiration and my purpose, when I don't even really understand me, right? Because all I know of me is who I've always been. And if I'm trying to make a decision for the rest of my life in a place of me being who I've always been, it's going to lead to me not being very happy, causing there to be a lot of resistance in the process of getting that thing, right? Because most of our programming isn't really us. It's just what we've been taught to believe. The
meaning we put on everything. Agreed.
Exactly.
100%. So it's this awareness. Go ahead.
Yes. It's the awareness of being able to let go of an expectation of having to be anything or do anything, right? I know it sounds a little like you said, contrarian to popular belief. But for me, that was the most important thing, was me giving myself permission post-football to step into this place of, I'm just going to do what I want. I was a finance major in college. So I thought I wanted to come out after football, be a financial analyst and take that route, get really into stocks and be a suit and tie guy and sit in an office and do that. Right. But after I got done playing ball, I'm like, I know that sounds sexy. Like, yeah, right. I'm a financial analyst. Like, yeah, that makes me feel special.
Right.
But I was like, there's no way I'm going to do that. And actually I had a lot of resistance to it, but I not to reading this book, but I read a book that talked about this thing called Heaven on Earth and being able to really go into that fully and step into my inspiration. And I remember sitting in the library and asking myself, what could I do to get into the space to share this with other people? And I was like, well, remember a guy offered me a job as a personal trainer. I could probably get into that. I'm really good with the physical body. Let me do that. Right now, there's actually a lot of pride I had to fight in myself, because I'm like, oh, I don't want to be a personal trainer. Right. Like that to me, that doesn't sound very sexy. Right. You know, like I was going to be in the NFL, I was going to be a big financial analyst, and now I'm going to be a personal trainer. I know nothing against personal training, right? But that's just how it felt.
Right.
And
based on what society says, how you're looked at. The outside world is influencing your inside world, saying you shouldn't do this for this. And you have to be aware of this internal conversation you're having during this whole thing. You have to be really in touch with that. And I'll like, sometimes when I do something for someone, I want a reaction, and I say, that's not really why I did it. I shouldn't want to. I did it because it's the right thing to do and it's according to my value system. But I really have to fight with that sometimes. So was there a battle that you were going on that you kept going back to what the world said you should be, or what you thought you should be, but it really wasn't allowing yourself to open up and explore?
Most of the resistance was right in the beginning of it, but it just like, once that light turned on and I had that sense of like, oh, whoa, like this is what I feel like I really should do. Yeah. There wasn't a lot of resistance after that. So I reached out to the guy. I was like, hey, is that job still available? Because he offered me a position a few months before that. And I was like, nah, sorry, dude, I'm not. Actually, it's funny that you say that, because I was resistant at first, but then when I felt an inspiration, independent of him asking me, which was a few months later, I got back to him. Right. So through that space of me having my own time to really figure out what I wanted, I went into it. Now, I also knew once I committed to that, I'm like, okay, I got to get the fuck out of South Dakota. I want to go somewhere that's warm, and end up choosing Miami. And so I became a really good personal trainer in the space that I was in, like incredible in Sioux Falls. Like, I mean, I got to the top of the company really, really quick, top 4, and it was 50 plus personal trainers, you know, just really did everything I could to be as good as I could be. And because I knew in a few months I'd be moving to Miami. So I got done playing ball in August. I was working as a personal trainer October, and I was leaving to Miami in the middle of February of the following year. And so I really just went all in on it and realized there's a huge missing demand for internal health, like true internal health, independent of like macronutrients and of size. And there was also an area that I wanted to get in for myself, because I was a freak physically, but internally I had a lot of stuff that I was dealing with: gas, bloating, heartburn, low energy at times. My sleep was relatively spotty. So I started to dive into internal health and what it was to be healthy from the inside out. Right. And so then I moved to Miami, and
you said, the reason I'm smiling over here, people can't see that. What you just said about yourself sounds like me. So go ahead. I'm interested in how you address this. Go ahead.
Yeah, certainly. So I'm like, I want to figure this out for me. And also there's not a lot of people talking about, this is probably 4 years ago. So right now, gut health and autoimmune health are really popular. But that was kind of back when it wasn't really that popular. Okay. So I became the go-to guy for everything internal health related. And I created a program for people with different autoimmune conditions and digestive disorders through doing it on myself, but also some people that were in the gym in Miami. I worked at a gym called Equinox. So I kind of became the go-to guy and got to a point where I couldn't deal with working for somebody else anymore. There was a couple internal things like corporate shit that happened of trying to really like pull me back a little. Cause I got to the top of the company there too. Right. And so I'm like, all right, I'm out of here, man. And so I quit. I had
wait, did you know when you quit, Keyen, did you know what you were going to do, or just said, I'm going to do something? And
I did. And I said, like, I could feel the resistance to staying there. And I'm like, okay, when my clients start to fall off is when I'll quit. And so I did quit. And I had about 2.5 months of savings for living in downtown Miami at the time. And I spent half of what I had on a coaching program to take my program online. So I went all in on that. A lot of stress during that time, but I found a way to make it work. And through that experience, I just became a full-time entrepreneur with the program that I had. It was called the Total Body Reset. And was working with a lot of people with these different autoimmune conditions and digestive problems. And through that experience, I learned that a lot of people that were having these issues actually were dealing with something deeper on the mental emotional level. Simultaneously, that's when I started to dive into some of the mental emotional stuff that I was dealing with, right? Getting into the law of attraction and getting into what it is to manifest and to create a really cool life, like the nuts and bolts of it. So I'm like, let me dive into this stuff with my clients. And I started to do that. Started to realize that, okay, this is like the root of all of it. Like,
yeah, right. Yeah.
Right? This is like the root of all of the physical disorders that people are experiencing seems to come from somewhere in the deeper mental emotional space. And so through that experience of being an entrepreneur, I moved to Colombia with a few friends who were also entrepreneurs, started becoming surrounded by a lot of other entrepreneurs, and scaled my product a little more, but got to a point where I'm like, I'm not really inspired to keep going on this. And I'm more interested in the mental emotional space. And that was when I really started going deeper with myself, doing different plant medicine journeys, went to ayahuasca, did some more mushroom experiences, and started to go in deeper with my own mental emotional health. And let
me stop you there. Were you inspired? So when you say you're going on this journey, this exploration, and you're in touch with, you're thinking about what you're thinking about and how you're feeling and what direction it's pulling you in kind of naturally. Were you inspired during this path by, you mentioned the original book that you read, by any mentors or books or videos or something other than your own experiences? Was there something else that maybe influenced you or caused you to go deeper into the mind and the spirit and that type of thing?
Oh, yeah, there's so many. And that's where it's difficult for me, Mike, to give specifics.
Sure.
Because it was like when a light bulb would click or an idea would come, I would just go into it. Like I would trust it. And then that through me going into the research of it would emerge people that would show me more direction or inspiration to continue it. It would just, for me, I think a lot of it is with just having the balls to commit to the feeling that I had of what was coming up for me. Like when I started learning about internal health, man, like I would spend hours and hours just like having and it wasn't even rigid. It was just like, I'm just so inspired right now. I want to learn more about this. Like, this is fascinating. Like internal health, like emotional related to the physical body. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
Right. So I was like, what is this? Like, how does this all work? And I was fascinated. And so through me continually going into this place of like, okay, this feels like fascinating. This feels fun. This feels like, whoa, what is this? How does this work? And applying a lot of it on me, I was just able to continually do it more and more for other people. Right. And so that's where this beautiful process post-football has been for me. Just like, this feels really inspiring. Whoa, this is interesting. And then I gave myself permission to read a bunch of books on it or research like crazy and listen to a bunch of podcasts on it and whatever it was. So it was just me having the inspiration and then following that and then going deeper into it through learning more about that, through consciously trying to do that, to learn more about whatever I was inspired to learn more about.
Wow. Do you follow Andrew Weil or Will, the guy with the bushy beard who wrote 8 Weeks to Optimum Health, and he was on the cover of Time magazine? Andrew Weil.
I know the name, but mm-mm. And this is also really interesting. This is also really interesting too, Mike, is what I have to say too, is so much of it, like whenever I learn information, I internalize it as it being my own. And that really allows me to own it to the highest capacity and to apply it. And so a lot of the times I won't remember where I get information. Like I might remember a whole book, but I'll forget the title and the author sometimes. Right, just because like I'm just so inundated by the information. But that's what allows me to fully go into the entirety of the application. Is that right? And in my mind, like all information was placed from somewhere initially that just keeps getting passed down. Right. So it's just like, and I'm not going to say I'm not going to give anybody else credit for the information, right? That I have, but it was through me learning the information and then owning it to the full capacity inside of me is what allowed me to.
What it means to you, how it impacted you, the meaning that you give it, and how it's going to help you and others. So first of all, my wife and I love the idea, and it's part of my value system. I have 5 values that guide my life, and the last one is the strength of my mind, body, and spirit. Doing all the things for my mind, body, and spirit that allow me to do my other 4 values. Because my mind, body, and spirit aren't set up to be congruent with these other things, then I need that. It's like putting the mask on your child when you're flying. If you lose oxygen or air pressure, you have to help yourself first in order to, so it's that kind of thing. But I'm fascinated, and I think everyone should be, because if you're not healthy, mentally, physically, spiritually healthy, then nothing else matters. And I heard Denzel Washington in the commencement address. You'll love this. You probably heard it, that you never saw a hearse pulling a U-Haul. So I love the fact of you talking about the ease, that you can be driven with success, find your path. But I love that you fuse that word ease, because that means it's natural to you. It's something where you should be at that time and place and what you should be doing. So tell the audience, tell everyone, what are you working on, and what right now is most impactful that you're working on, and how are you transforming lives, and what does that mean to you, and what does it mean to the folks that you work with? How's it happening?
Certainly. And so one of the standards, baselines, what I say is I'm the guy that people go to once they've mastered personal development, right? So a lot of people are trying to get to baseline motivation and trying to just be at a place where, you know, what they want with their life and being able to be motivated to do that and to be a hard worker. But people are ready for me when they mastered the art of getting off the couch. Right? I say the people that come to me are people that can't sit down. They're not the ones that are having a hard time getting off the couch. They're the ones that can't sit down. But the issue that happens when so many of us high achievers have been pushing ourselves so hard for so long is that what we're doing is we attach to the outcome of the situation. So we give ourselves permission to be okay based off our ability to create a certain outcome, whether that be in our business, whether that be in our intimate relationship, right, with our spouse, whether that be in us being how we are with our children, being a father to our children. And so we attach to these outcomes of how we think they should be. And ultimately what that does is that creates this dependency on those to be good. So when they're not good, we're shaky and don't have a good foundation in ourselves, which in the process of that, this attachment to those outcomes allows them to not thrive. And so what do we know? Detachment allows for the greatest level of success to happen. So by going in,
you cut out a little bit. Give it a minute if you can hear me, because I know you're.
So, yeah, I stopped right there. So
yeah. So you were in.
Can you hear me?
You're in Rio.
I stopped.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Yeah. So by going in and finding the source of the reason why I have to use success in these different areas to give myself permission to be okay will allow me to detach from the outcomes of those different areas of my life. I know it might be a little scary to say detach because we put so much effort in. That's the only way we know how to make things work is through effort and the underdog mentality, right? But I can promise that through the element of detaching allows us to begin to fully unconditionally love other people, but also allow for there to be fluidity and flow in our business and in our lives. So through the art of going in and detaching from the outcomes of these situations, through finding emotional sovereignty in ourselves, not through the outcomes of different areas of our lives, we're able to step into a much, much greater place of abundance, financially, emotionally, intimately, than we could possibly fathom with living in that place of trying to effort our way into getting all of it.
So explain how, if you're not focused, because I come from that place of you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. The great ones are comfort's a killer of success, because you push yourself beyond your comfort zone to build new muscle memory and all those things. So how, you have your goal or goals. This is traditional thinking now. And I know you get this and came from there. You have your goals, and these are the actions that you know you need to do and don't always do, but you need to have the triggers and people and things around you to get you to do the things that you don't feel like doing. that will drive the process. The favorite quote that Belichick has in the Patriots locker room is one of my favorite quotes, is from The Art of War: "Every battle is won before it's fought." And it's in that preparation, the process of moving towards it, that you build the strength, the resilience, the persistence, and mental toughness to get there. So, but I understand, and I've had my greatest moments in my life, and I'm here to tell you, helping my heart is helping those less fortunate and getting involved with people that are homeless and kids that can't help themselves. And I wish I had the guts. I wish I had the balls to just be go to a third world country, or just do it here and just be a missionary. I mean, of all the things, I've made millions, I've lost millions. Of all the things that gave me the greatest joy and fulfillment was not building my dream home, was not getting my dream cars, was not selling a company to a multi-billion-dollar company. It was really looking in the eyes of a child and knowing that I helped improve their life, and look at the mother's eyes that she couldn't do it, but it was done in front of her and for her and with her. And it's kind of interesting because I am conditioned to not do that. It's my heart. It's what I want to do. So I tell myself I want to continue to make a lot of money. I'm building a new business now. It's residual based, a SaaS model that will allow me to do that all the time. I just want to go into a store and buy everyone's food that can't afford it, or that's what, nothing comes close to that. I'm telling you, and I'm not saying this is not to say what I'm doing is great. That's just my heart. It's what gives me the greatest peace, joy, fulfillment in my life. It's not making the $1 million sale. It's doing that. And I don't know a way, and I know I don't want this to be a therapy session. I don't know a way to find that, even though I know it makes life the most real to me. So is that,
what do you mean when you say you don't know how to find that? What are you referring to when you're saying that?
I don't know how to get out of the trap, if it is the business of growing something. Right now I'm saying to myself, for me to get there, I have to build this business. I have bills. So I have to build this business, generate enough revenue that allows me to spend all my time, or the majority of my time, doing what I want to do, which is in the lives of people that can't help themselves, making a bigger impact, and mostly in children. Seniors are good too, but mostly in children who have their whole life ahead of them, that feel unloved, don't believe in themselves, don't come from an environment or a place that you or I came from, that need someone to step into their life that believes in them, loves them, and can show them a path to find their own path. Yeah. So anyway, that's the thing.
Thank you for saying that. I love that you shared all that, and I have a couple things that I want to build on off of that.
Sure.
You talked about the muscle that has to be built to be able to, right? You work the muscle, and it grows through that. Well, I would argue that the muscle that you've learned how to build, or the muscle you learn how to build with hard work and being able to build these big businesses through a lot of time, effort, and energy, has gotten really strong, right? It's a muscle that's been very strong for a long time. And now there's another muscle that's there that would like to be worked out and flexed a little bit, okay? And so to give some context into this, I say the act of picking up quarters versus picking up pennies, right? In business, 80% of the shit that we do doesn't really account for a lot of the success that we have, right? It's a lot of these like 20% things of like, whoa, I made this decision, I met with this person, right? Most of the big success that we get comes down to a few really good decisions or ballsy moves that we made, right? That attributes to most of our success.
Yeah.
So what I do is I say, how do we tap into this 20% greater, where I'm no longer having to go through all this other 80% that's there, right? But when I'm in this underdog, and all I know is force, all I know is to make things happen and pushing and working really hard, I don't know how to tap into that 20% because I'm still operating in that 80% area. So it's a lot of inefficient work, right? And so that's part of the muscle that I help people work, is to help them work that muscle of, okay, well, what really is this 20% that creates the most success in every area of my life? So I'm not having to do this other 80%, right? But most of it's the reasoning why people feel like they have to, right? All you've really known is that this is how I get success. I work my ass off. This is how I get success. But this is the also other thing I say is what got you here won't get you there. So if you want to create the impact at the scale that you want to do it at and maintain the quality of relationships that you have in your life, it's going to have to come down to you taking energy from somewhere, right? We only have a certain allocated amount of energy.
Right.
But if you can take away some of the energy that you're exerting in one area through becoming more efficient in that space, then you have more energy to allocate in other areas, right? But when we're attached to the outcome of that situation, all we really know is hard work to get to that place. It's very difficult to be able to trust that. You talked about the Belichick quote of the battle is won before it happens.
Yeah.
Right. Well, can you do that with feeling that about the business that you're starting without having to get the validation of your hard work to justify it? Can you already say, hey, it's already done. I've already created this business, even though it's not created yet. And now all I have to do is just allow the pieces to come in. Can I do that? Right. Now, for most people, they'd say, whoa, no, I have to control. I have to do this. I have to do that. And I know it can be very difficult to comprehend for a lot of people that have never stepped into that place and all they know is hard work. And trust me, the hard work was like, I would say, led to my demise in football. I got too big because I felt like I had to keep going way more than I actually did. I was a freak. But I thought I had to work way harder than I otherwise would have or should have, I should say. So that's one of the big things I learned from the NFL, right? But it's a different playing field. It's a different muscle that needs to be flexed, and it's evolving into a new phase of life, which is a place of ease and allowance instead of hard work and discipline.
Isn't it?
It's just the next step.
And and you come from a place of discipline, focus, and hard work, and always getting better, and being comfortable, being uncomfortable, and push, and grind, and next level. So how do you? We may have froze up a little. How do you? If you were to, and there may be more than 3 steps. I love the magic of ABC 1, 2, 3, 3 or 7 steps. What are the 1, 2, or 3 things that would be a starting point for someone that says, I want a leader, an entrepreneur, anyone that says, and I peel it back to this with my values. Everyone ultimately, I think, and tell me if you agree with this, Keyen, that the ultimate thing is we want more peace, joy, and fulfillment. Those are kind of the 3 words. Peace, what does that mean to live congruency, and what does that peace feel like? True peace, harmony. Peace, joy versus happiness, joy in your heart, and fulfillment. That I rest my head on my pillow at night knowing that I did and was everything I meant to do and should do. And so to get to that, what are the 1, 2, or 3 things that you can share with our audience that they could start on that journey? And you may have said it already with just don't have a clear path, just let it flow. So, but maybe reiterate that so people know where to start and allow that to happen, which is, like I said, contrarian to mostly what I teach people, I coach people, and it's great to hear something new and different, refreshing. So have at it. 1, 2, or 3 things that you would recommend to start on the journey.
So would you say for people that have already come from the background of a lot of hard work and discipline, or would you say people that need to step into that place?
Yes, exactly. They have, this is for the listener who understands that hard work, I kind of say this, hard work with the right blueprint. So I use the NFL as an example. I say, you have the rookie standing behind the all-pro. And the all-pro is going to accelerate their path to being successful by saying, this is what you should be looking at now. This is what you should be thinking now. This is what you need to do to work out to be prepared for this moment. This is what you need to execute when they go this way. So you're accelerating that path, and it's through hard work, discipline. I use Jerry Rice as an example, who is a great example of someone who outworked everyone else and achieved great success as a wide receiver for San Francisco. So, and sorry about the Chiefs, by the way, this year. But anyway, how to throw that in. But so those listening to this that are brought up that believe that through hard work and the right blueprint and just grinding, that's the way. What would you say to them in terms of 1, 2, or 3 things? Could be things you need to do or things you need to think about. What would you say to them?
Well, first, I think it's important to give a little context in the space that I'm in. I've been able to step into literally embodying a job that feels like I'm retired every single day. And I make more than, I make 6 figures. I'm not going to say, I'm going to give specific numbers here, but I make 6 figures doing that at the age of 27. Okay. And I live a life that is so fun. I do whatever I want, whenever I want. Okay. So it's important to be able to give that context to be able to support some of the beliefs and ways of operating that I have.
Then it works.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I have incredible relationships, incredible relationship people around me. Right. And I'm living a really fun life. Right. It's not really that, it's not that hard. Like life doesn't have to be that hard. Okay. But giving some context to it.
Yeah.
Okay. And to be dead honest about really what the catalyst from going from hard work and discipline to allowing and a place of ease. I have it written down in my coaching session this morning. We went in on this because we do everyone, but I always say this, like our capacity to experience true joy is only as great as our willingness to go into our own pain. Okay.
Dive a little into that. Explain what that means.
Our capacity to experience true joy is only as great as our willingness to go into our pain. Okay. There was a lot of parts of me that said, I'm not worthy in and of myself, so I have to prove and show that I am. Okay. And so that's where a lot of that underdog mentality came from with football of, well, I'm from South Dakota. I'm an underdog. I have to push way harder. I have to work way harder. I have to do more than everybody else. Right. Because there's part of me that said, I'm actually not worthy. So I have to continually prove myself over and over and over again. All right. And so I hired a coach who I would say is, I like to consider myself the best in the world at what I do, but I think he's the best in the world as well. So he's been doing what I do for about 10 more years than I have. And really him creating the space for me to go in and really feel a lot of my unworthiness of where that comes from, where it stems from, and processing all of that stored emotion inside of me, allowing it to pass, is what's allowed me to begin to naturally embody this sense of worthiness of saying, I'm a fucking king and I deserve everything in my life. Right. And so much of it comes from this place of, ooh, that might be arrogant. Oh, that's cocky if I say that. Oh, I can't really allow myself to feel that because that's too much. Right. But mending that relationship with my ability to not make my love, unconditional love for myself and massive abundance in my life conditioned based off of my performance. Right. So I wish I could give like an easy little like, hey, go push this button and do it. But this is what it is. This is what it takes. Like, dude, I've gone in so deep in my own emotional state. Oh, so deep purges, like emotionally, like exorcism type shit, right? On myself.
Now, did you have this coach help you with that? Like, how was that pulled out of you? And how long did that, and I'm sure it will differ amongst different individuals. What started that process? What was that process like? What initiated that process? What helped you go through that process? Talk a little bit about that, because it's not an easy thing. How do you get in touch with, your beliefs, how do you get in touch with, well, this is really the underlying reason why I'm doing this. If it's an underlying reason and it's in your subconscious, how do you make it part of your consciousness? And that's, maybe we don't know when our brake light's out. We don't say maybe that's where a coach comes in. We can't see our blind spot. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Oh man. I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful because I've been asking for a year to a year and a half for a mentor for me that was like exactly what I was doing, because I hadn't met anybody else that's really doing the same thing as me.
Right.
And we were on a mutual podcast and I got introduced to him, and he created a space. He was able to create a space for me to be able to feel so comfortable and to be able to get so honest with myself about how I was really feeling about my life and past events and all that kind of stuff, that I was able to allow all that emotion that I had pushed down, like me, strong by masculine energy. I can always very good at pivoting, moving different directions, suppressing my emotion to make shit happen.
To perform,
right?
Yeah.
To perform, make it happen, right?
Yep.
But going in and him creating that space for me to learn how to do that, because he'd done it in himself, right? He makes a lot of money doing this. He's segued out of it now. Does it a little bit, but anyway, for him to be able to go in and do a lot of this work himself, to create a space for me to be able to get really honest with myself and to get vulnerable with myself and honest emotionally with myself and purge all stored emotion that I've had from unworthiness in myself, has allowed me to come out on the other side with less emotional shit that's preventing me from stepping in this place of I'm worthy, right? My inherent value as a king of this world. right? So, but it comes from, I'm going to say it again, capacity to experience true joy is only as great as our willingness to go into our pain. And this is how I describe it. It's a slingshot. I go down into my own emotional shit, right? The space is created. I'd be crying. I might be bawling, going into this stuff, going deep down, down, down into it. But what always emerges, get slingshot, boom, up. And there is always this point where it's full acceptance of this pain that it goes up and I come out of it. And through that, clarity emerges and a deep understanding of who I am and what I want emerges, right? But if we don't go in and experience that hurt and that pain, it's difficult for that joy and that clarity to emerge. It's very counterintuitive to how most people think. Most people believe that if I want to be happier, I got to do these step 1, 2, 3 that makes me happier. But actually, to be happier, it's not about trying to be happier. It's through going into our own deep shit that we're refusing to accept and acknowledge, allowing us to come out happier on the other side.
Right. So once you do that, once you do the step 1, 2, 3 to understand where your pain or what your beliefs, whatever is causing you the deep down levels of sabotaging your joy and your unworthiness, what do you do? How do you then go from there? Once you identify those things, you're aware of it now. You identify it, you're aware of it. How do you then create a path to get to the next step?
Well, here's the part that makes me so good at what I do, right? And this is what I'll say all the time. The healing is in the feeling. Most people that get to me have been to therapists, they've been to psychologists, they've listened to a lot of podcasts, read a lot of books, and they know this stuff. They know that their emotional health is the reason why they're not getting what they want, right? And are able to feel good about when they do get it. All right, so people know. But really what it comes down to is, for me, creating a space for people. I was a gladiator, played, the NFL, and I'm talking about emotion. So people feel safe with me. Like, okay, this guy's just not a hippy dippy dude that just is running around talking about emotion. Right. So I created a space, right, for people to go in and feel all that hurt and pain. And when they do that's actually all the work in itself. My clients don't have any homework. My clients don't do any work outside of the sessions that we do. I don't hold them accountable to anything because all of the work is already done in the context of our sessions. All of the healing is in the feeling. So when they give themselves permission to go to these deep places, it's not, and keep in mind too, it's not every time an emotional purge like that. Not every time, right? But when they give themselves permission to go to this space of just deep honesty with themselves about how they're really feeling about a lot of things, it allows all that resolve to happen in that space. So as a byproduct, without consciously trying, they begin to embody this different way of being. And I would say, honestly, inherently as human beings, that's our default. We just learn through life that we're not worthy because of all the different environmental inputs that come into us, right?
Right. So you're saying
I would say to get people to a place of getting to,
the outside circumstances and conditions, the meaning we give events and what people say to us shape who we are. We shape by giving that meaning. And here we're going in and just kind of going deep, like you said, and purging this stuff that's holding us back from being our true, authentic self that we're meant to be and meant to experience things. And wow. How important is putting yourself in an environment of other people that will support and encourage you during this or hold you, if there's any accountability in this process? How important is that?
If you work with me, it's not really that important because my clients are, they set the temperature of a room. Gotcha. My clients set the temperature of a room. They're not swayed by the temperature of the room and they change to the temperature. They set the fucking tone.
I got you.
And that's what this work does. It allows us to be able to get to a place where I love saying this, emotional sovereignty, where I become emotionally sovereign, where I'm no longer affected by your emotional state or contingent off of how I make you feel or what I'm doing to feel good about myself, allowing me to step in this place of light. Right? I'm light, and this is how I show up, and this is what I want to do, and this is how I operate, and this is how I function. And so they begin to change the people around them without even trying to do that. Right? It's a byproduct. The change they have in the people around them and the impact they have on the people around them is a byproduct of their internal shifts and changes. So actually, when most people that get to me, they're consciously trying to change the world. But when they leave me, they're no longer trying to change the world because they've found so much emotional sovereignty in themselves. They feel like they don't need to, right? Allowing there to be this unbelievable transformation around them as a byproduct. It's not the intention, it's a byproduct. Okay.
Wow. This is deep. I'm not a big drinker. I may need a drink after this. This is all. What's great about this? It's new. It's different. It's refreshing. At the core of everything, I believe that if it allows you to have more harmony and ease of harmony and joy and fulfillment, and naturally, who we are. I thought of a few quotes, but it may not apply here. Gandhi's quote: "Be the change that you wish to see in the world," and that. Nias Nin, we don't see the world the way it is. We see the world the way we are. But all these things that you're saying, that when we're different, it's like we become, it's just fascinating. I mean, really, and the only thing that really kind of upset me during this whole thing is you're 27 years old. And that really pissed me off. Yeah.
I know it pisses a lot of people off, and I love it.
Yeah. I'm thinking, stop bragging, man, or call me daddy or something. I don't know, but buddy, it better not be grandpa. That's all I'm saying. So, but
I love it, man.
That's great. So, wait, you're in. Thank you for all this. I'm going to have to process. I'm going to listen to this again. This is really great stuff, and I think ultimately, as human beings. This is, I think, what we need to get in touch with. I think it's the essence.
Can I say something here too?
Yeah, no, please.
This is the future of everything. 10 years from now, you're going to look back and be like, holy shit, Keyen led this thing. This is the truth. This is the truth. Like this right here. This is the truth.
I love that.
You said it. You said it. Our essence right there.
Yeah.
You're just going to, this is it.
This is it.
This is it.
And so this is it. This is it, folks. Listen to Keyen, the 27-year-old whippersnapper. So Keyen, I'm down here in Florida. And by the way, you mentioned Gladiator. I was on the show American Gladiators. So yeah, well, this is not to brag. I got my butt kicked in front of 6 million people. But my point is that I would be a professional athlete. I tell people if I was faster, stronger, more agile, and more committed. Other than that, I was perfect. So I was far from a beast, maybe a beetle, not a beast. But my point is that I saw New Jersey, came down to Florida. You moved to Miami. Now, do you say you're in Rio de Janeiro? So
yeah,
give us a real quick what got you to Rio?
Oh man, I was dating somebody because I lived in Colombia before that. So I lived in Colombia. Moved back to the U.S., brought my girlfriend back with me. I was just feeling a lot of inspiration back in the U.S. when I moved back from Colombia to do some international solo travel. And it was a really tough conversation I had to have with my girlfriend, but I had to commit to that. And I decided to go to Rio. I was torn between that and Buenos Aires. And I already told all my clients from November 13th to December 13th, no work was being done. So I was already planning on going somewhere. Yeah. So I came out to Rio during that time, broke up with my girlfriend, and was just in my own space. No social media, no work, no outside communication with anybody outside of Rio. And I didn't speak any Portuguese at the time. Still speak very little, but I'm getting better. And I just fell in love with the place, man. I fell in love with this place. And my best friend came out and surprise visited me during that time. And he stayed away from me. I made sure, I'm like, dude, I told you this is my solo time. We'll have time to hang out. This is my solo time. And he fell in love with the place too. And we both ended up just staying out here. And so it's been 3 months, and I'll probably be out here till the end of May. But we'll see. We'll see where I feel inspired to go next.
So would you consider yourself, as I listen to all this, I'm trying to say, how would I describe you to anyone? A free spirit? Is that a free spirit who's intentional? An intentional free spirit, which is kind of a paradox. How can you be an intentional free spirit? I guess you're intentionally free, but how would you describe this movement that you're starting, that you say 10 years from now, this is the truth? What would you say it is? How would you summarize as we finish up here? Summarize what the truth is in a statement.
Emotional sovereignty.
Emotional sovereignty.
Oh, God, I love it. I love it. It's so relevant. Emotional sovereignty. So my ability to tap into my inner sense of knowing for what I want, independent of anybody else. And here's the really beautiful part about that process is that when we give ourselves permission to do that, we gradually evolve into different areas of life, right? Where we eventually get to a potentially a place of contribution, right? But if I don't give myself permission to be in this place of what do I want? How do I want to live my life? I will then unconsciously project my inability to live the life the way I wanted to live onto my spouse, my kids, the people around me. And eventually, not for everybody, but there's eventually a resentment that gets built up for our own inability to live a life the way we wanted to live it. I'm not saying everybody has to go live in Rio de Janeiro and move in different countries. Not saying that at all, right? But at least put ourselves in a position to be able to be emotionally honest with ourselves, to live a life of our choosing, right? But the world glorifies sacrifice. The world glorifies helping everybody else. But here's the beautiful part. When I started to make it about me, I began to be able to actually make it about other people. I don't have the capacity to make it about other people until I make it about me, right? And so the more I've done that, and the more I step into this place of confidence in myself, the higher I'm able to serve all these leaders that are influencing everybody else.
Right. You're changing the world by virtue of doing that, by changing yourself first.
Right. Just only by following my heart's desires. That's all I do. That's all I follow my heart's desires, and the byproduct is massive change on the world.
Yeah. And Keyen, the only thing I would call that is, let me see, emotional sovereignty.
Boom.
Bam.
Woo. Come on, baby.
And yeah. So I would say, I normally ask the guest, well, if people want to get in touch with you, but you're like off the radar now, when are you going to be back on the radar when people, if they want to get in touch with this, if they want to be transformed into the emotional sovereignty state of mind, they don't want to wait 10 years for that to happen. They want to do it now. When should they get in touch with you, and how do they get in touch with you?
Now they can. And here's the beautiful part, and there may be some skeptics out there, but all my testimonials are from Zoom calls, but I operate entirely on Zoom. So all my clients, I do all interactions like this. So I do work still from where I'm at, but people can reach out to me via my website or my Instagram. Those are the two places. Keyen.Lage. Keyen.Lage, and I'm sure Michael put the spelling of it in the show notes as we reverted to earlier, the difficulty in that, but KEYEN.LAGE is the Instagram, and then just KeyenLage.com is my website where you can find out more information about me and see some testimonials as well.
Amazing, brother.
Well, that's a wrap on another great podcast. But, I was thinking these podcasts really don't have much value unless you put the principles into practice. After all, that's where the rubber meets the road. And when you think about it, everything starts with a goal. There's nothing more important than having solid goals. You can't hit a target you don't have, right? So for that reason, I have created what I think is probably one of the best goal books, ebooks ever written. It's on my website, absolutely free. It's entitled 7.5 Steps to Achieving Extraordinary Goals. My website address is michaelaltschuler.com, MichaelAltschuler.com. Go there, download that ebook, take action, and I promise you, once you do that, your life and your business will absolutely change.
This has been a production of SomeoneTalkedMedia.com.